Hello guys and welcome to another MK Mobile character review, today featuring Klassic Goro. As usual guys, please note the date when this video has been uploaded because a lot of things may have changed since then, and if you're not familiar with the matrix I'm using in order to evaluate characters, you can find it on the top right corner of the screen. So without any further ado, let us put Klassic Goro to the test. Klassic Goro guys was released on the 4th of October 2017, and he was originally a diamond character, so he was never part of the old store. Moreover, when he was released, he was so powerful that his passive could literally break the game, so people actually had to kill him last. Otherwise, if his passive got triggered, if he would eventually come back, this was a guaranteed crash. And unfortunately this thing stayed for about 3 or 4 weeks until it was finally patched. But at the beginning guys, Klassic Goro was really powerful. With that said, let's take a look at his stats. His attack is 60,858, which is the 9th highest in the game. The hit points, they're 123,648 and they rank 8. The toughness is 53,563, the 5th highest in MK Mobile, and the recovery is quite low. It is only 41,769, which ranks 21st in the game, but as we have agreed on multiple occasions, recovery is not really important. The power generation though is pretty high, it is 130%. So for his stats, Klassic Goro is going to get the solid 24.5 out of 28 possible points. Special one of Klassic Goro guys is called Shock and Slam, and here it is what you need to know about it. First of all, the ability is completely unblockable, like 100%. In addition, it has Strength as buff, which is not really the greatest buff in the world, but it is still something. The ability cannot be cast from distance guys, so please be very careful, especially considering the fact that in a lot of cases the basic attacks of Goro will make sure that the enemy will be out of his special one reach, so once again you have to be really careful. Moreover, the ability is little, it consists of 8 mini hits and it has the 2 single tap circles as minigame. And one more thing about Klassic Goro Special 1, a lot of people actually don't like the fact that Goro is showing off his guns after the end of his Special 1, and thus he is usually and often open for counterattack, not only by a character that can eventually tag in at the same time, but also by the character who just ate his Special 1. So if you're worried that this may happen to your Goro, all you have to do is to press on the portrait of any of the other 2 characters on your team. Thus, by the time Special 1 of Goro is finished, he will be automatically tagged out and he won't be showing anything. When it comes to damage, the minimum damage of the special attack is 20,083, which is the 14th highest in the game, and the maximum damage is 40,166, which ranks 11th in MK Mobile. Once again, the special attack is completely unblockable, it has Strength as buff, it cannot be cast from distance, it is little, it consists of 8 mini attacks, and it has the 2 single tap circles as minigame. So for his Special 1, Klassic Goro is going to get only 6.9 out of 13 possible points. Special 2 of Klassic Goro guys is called Quake, and in my opinion it is one of the best looking abilities in MK Mobile. Let's take a more detailed look at it. First of all, unlike his Special 1, this time the ability isn't unblockable. However, it has more useful debuff Weaken, which is actually not really required because in 95% of the cases the enemy will be dead if you land a successful Special 2. In addition, the ability can be cast from distance, even at long range that will be perfectly fine. It is little, it consists of 5 mini hits, and it has probably the worst minigame in MK Mobile, the bubbles. When it comes to damage, the minimum damage of the ability is 50,207, which is the 11th highest in the game, and the maximum damage is 100,415, which ranks 8th. Once again, the special attack is blockable, it has Weaken as debuff, it can be cast from distance, it is little, it consists of 5 mini attacks, and it has the bubbles as mini game. So for his Special 2, Klassic Goro is going to get 12.4 out of 19 possible points. The X-ray of Classic Goro, guys, is called Spine Adjustment. What you need to know about it is that first, it has power generation as buff, which is quite useful, and second, it can be cast from distance, mid and short range. However, sadly, the X-ray will fail if you try to cast it long range away from the enemy. With that said, let's move to the damage. The damage of the X-ray is 120,498, which ranks 14th highest in the game. Once again, the ability has power generation as buff and it can be cast from distance. So for his X-ray, Classic Goro is going to get 3.8 out of 4 possible points, and the total amount of points he gets for his special attacks adds up to 23.2 out of 36 possible. I will be honest, the basic attacks of Classic Goro are really horrible. There isn't a single thing that I like about them. The only thing that actually saves the basic attacks from being total disaster is the fact that Classic Goro generates power pretty fast and he doesn't really require a lot of punching in order to get to special 1 or even special 2. With that said, his basic attacks once again are terrible. He has very low speed, his chaining is okay sometimes, but in general not that great as well, and on top of that, his basic attacks don't really work with his special 1 because in a lot of cases they are going to push the enemy away from the reach of his special 1, and that happens quite often and it is really annoying. So if you want for some reason to rely on Goro's basic attacks, then he definitely needs a block breaker. If you just use them to punch the enemy once or twice, even if the enemy is blocking, so that you can generate some power, that is perfectly fine and you don't require a block breaker on him. And one last thing about his basic attacks, the thing that I hate about them, apart from the fact that they're slow and the chaining is bad, is that Classic Goro also has terrible recovery speed. And this is really dangerous for a diamond. If he was a gold, he could get away with that, but a diamond character with that slow recovery speed can be really dangerous. So I'm sorry Goro, but you're going to get just 3 out of 10 possible points for your basic attacks. The passive of Goro, guys, is called Undefeated, and here it is what it does, I quote: "Once per match, 8 seconds after Goro is defeated, he will come back into the fight with 50% health and with a devastating stomp. All characters on Goro's team gain 20% attack." Now, let's start with the first part of his passive. Basically, the first part of Goro's passive makes him one of the best openers in the game, because it doesn't really matter who you're facing. Even if you get killed in the beginning, that's not a big deal because Goro will come back after 8 seconds. And now when it comes to a devastating stomp, it's not really that devastating. My all-time high damage with this devastating stomp was something like 30k, and it was a critical hit. So in general, it can deal some good damage. It is especially funny if you manage to kill the last enemy of the enemy team using this devastating stomp, but in general it doesn't deal destructive damage. With that said, the first part of his passive, guys, can be used almost anywhere if you are to eat some very high damage special 2, or if your main damage dealer is in trouble because the enemy has X-ray, you can always tag Goro in, then eat the X-ray, and even if you die, that's not a big deal because you're going to come back later. The only problem that I have is that you cannot really decide whether Goro comes back with a devastating stomp after 8 seconds or whether he stays tagged out. If you could choose that, that will be much better, but still, I mean, you can always adapt your playstyle accordingly. And when it comes to the second part of his passive, this is the reason why I consider Goro one of the best supportive diamond characters, like all around supportive diamond characters, because let's face it, there are diamonds that are amazing support for specific teams. Classic Goro can support any team, and this is the beauty of this character. He can fit in absolutely any team because he is, one, very good and very safe opener, second, very good support that can be used just to tag him in, special 1 tag out. It is simply mind-blowing. Now, when it comes to the second part of his passive, it is awesome, and I would love to see a slight buff on this. Instead of 20%, make it 30. If he had that, he would have been much better, and a lot of players would appreciate him more. Now, it is true that there are gold characters that can boost your attack by 30%, even though only on specific classes, and Goro can do that for every single character in the game. But still, he is a diamond, and I believe that this part of his passive deserves a small buff. And one last thing about his passive, guys. Now, I wasn't quite sure whether to put this here in this section, but at the end of the day I decided this is the best place in the review where I should mention it. Classic Goro has probably the fastest tag out time of any character in MK Mobile. What I mean is, currently you're seeing I am tagging in Erin Black, and you can see that it takes Erin Black some time until he can tag out, right? You're currently seeing the time, and then I'm doing the same with Goro, and this is the proof that Goro can tag out extremely fast. He can do it like twice faster than Erin Black. So in a way, all you have to do is tag Goro in, do immediate special one, and by the time your special one is finished, you can safely tag him out. And that is really useful, especially considering the fact that he is not the greatest fighter in the game. With that said, Classic Goro is going to get the solid 18 points for his passive. He is just an outward character, so he gets 1 point for classes and 0.5 for his tagging attack thanks to his passive. Okay guys, it is time to decide whether Classic Goro is a good character or whether he is trash or whether he is a bad character. In my opinion, guys, Classic Goro is one of the most underrated characters in the game because, of course, he's slow. Well, you have to understand something, guys. If a character is slow, it doesn't mean that he's bad. A character can be slow and can be useful in a lot of situations. The reason that people are often neglecting Classic Goro is simple. They're just trying to play him as a fighter. And sometimes they fail because he doesn't perform as good as MK11 Scorpion, for example, and thus they somehow decide that he's bad. No, he isn't bad, you just have to change your playstyle when you're using Classic Goro, because he is not a fighter once again. If you want a character who can punch people to death without any issues and just spam special one, then I mean Classic Goro can still do, but there are characters that will do better job, I admit that. With that said, let us take a look at the bigger picture. Classic Goro has very good stats, very high power generation. His special attacks are good, his special one is unblockable, and his special 2 is deadly if you manage to land a clean special attack on the enemy. So what I mean by that is that the enemy shouldn't be blocking. If you manage to do that, it is like 95% a dead enemy. His passive is very useful. Basically, Classic Goro can fit in any team. Unfortunately for him, his basic attacks suck. And that's the truth, that's the objective truth. His basic attacks are not good, guys. So, what do I personally think about Classic Goro? Once again, I'm going to repeat myself, he is extremely underrated, he's very versatile, this is everything that I value in a character. So, I'll be giving Classic Goro, guys, 2.5 out of my 3 subjective points. I really like this character, he's versatile, he can fit almost anywhere, and he can be played both for his special 1 or for his special 2, depending on what gear you have. And on top of that, he's a very safe opener. So you don't really care whether he goes down in the beginning of the match because he will always come back. So with my subjective points, he's going to score 74.1 and he's going to rank 23rd on our ranking, just above Reg Devora and just below Combat Cup Johnny Cage. Final verdict, Classic Goro, great character. Okay guys, we got to the gameplay. Now in my opinion, Classic Goro should be always your starter. Once again, we went through that. Classic Goro is an incredibly safe opener. Even if he gets killed in the beginning, he will come back, and that's really something valuable. However, if you decide to play based on his special 2, so if you're focusing on his special 2, then you have to consider somebody else. Though he can still do the job, thing is, Devastator doesn't really work on him if you wanna use mainly his special 2, so it will be kind of a waste. When it comes to his best matchups, I cannot really think of a character that Classic Goro counters a lot. I mean, he can be decent against anybody, but he definitely has hard time against Classic Liu Kang, because if he's crippled, basically Goro is close to useless. He's also very bad against disablers and power drainers, any kind of them, because if he doesn't have any power, Goro is again close to useless. We already went through the fact that his basic attacks are pretty horrible. And of course Shao Kahn is a very difficult matchup for Goro, because if Shao Kahn kills Goro using his brutality, Goro will actually never come back. Okay guys, we got to the equipment. Now, it all depends on which path you're going to take when it comes to Classic Goro's gameplay. If you want to play safe and use him as an opener who can eventually tag in, do lightning fast special one and then tagged out, then the best equipment you should give him, in my opinion, is a Devastator, Shao Kahn Helmet, Bloody Voodoo Dough, and Ice Bomb or Sindel's Ring, depending on which one of those you have maxed out. However, if you want to play for his special too, then you have to give him revolvers, Soul Medallion, Shao Kahn Helmet again, and Rat Hammer. I have tested both of these versions, both of these item sets, and they work absolutely lovely on Goro. Okay guys, we got to the teams. Now, as I mentioned multiple times, Classic Goro is an extremely versatile character. He can literally fit in any team, like any team, and he will add value to it. Now, one can argue that there are other characters that might give better value, for example, Classic Liu Kang as a support. Yeah, sure, but it doesn't mean that Goro cannot fit literally any team. So consider placing him anywhere, it doesn't really matter. Even if you don't really use him, the 20% attack boost is still something. And if you're asking me which is the best team for him, I would say that if you don't have any other juggernauts like Classic Liu Kang, MK11 Scorpion stuff, you can use him in a team that has 3 characters, even if they don't have any synergy between them, but those 3 characters should have something in common, and this something in common should be that they should all have unblockable special attacks. Once you do that, I mean, Faction Wars will be a walk in the park. Okay guys, Classic Goro, what do you think of him? Do you like him? Do you dislike him? Please let me know in the comments. Once again, he scored 74.1 and we labeled him as a great character. As usual guys, if you want to see more reviews, you can find the playlist on the top right corner of the screen. And if you want to know which is the next on-demand review coming in, you can find the list in the description of this video. See you next time guys. Take care and stay safe.
Bow before me. Perfect.